Your boy's back. Yo, crowdfunding roundup this week. A little bit of extra because I was on vacay last week. How was vacay? Vacation? I don't know why I said vacay. That's a stupid word. It was good. It's good. My birthday also happened to be during that week too. What did I get for my birthday? Absolutely nothing. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So, you ready? Let's do it. Cyclades, you're drunk. Get out of here. Okay, Bear Mountain Camping Adventure. If you had this one on the over-under of launching this week, let alone being the highest funding of the past couple weeks at $250,000, right? Whew. This is an interesting game from a first-time designer coming to crowdfunding here as another very nature-friendly, card-driven aesthetic with a slight worker placement twist. So essentially what you're doing is you have a blue and a green deck that you are going to be buying cards from, essentially, from a centralized market via the use of the cards in the first place. But the cards, unlike a lot of deck builders, aren't just going to have your two, different currencies. They're going to have a whole bunch of these little different colored tokens at the bottom that you get. And these different colored tokens are then going to correspond to what you can buy, and then they go in their each respective deck. In the first place, you're going to be moving your campsite through various colored coordinated campsites in the first place. You're going to move your campsite through color coordinated sections of camps in order to make your way to the end. You're also going to have a bear chase you because there's events that happen when you go to camp in the first place. You can only move from one color to one color that are adjacent to each other. And when you move to a new color, you're going to have to pay the price listed at the campsite in the form of those tokens that I previously mentioned. But moving from campsite to campsite within a color does not trigger the price point. And so that's going to be how you're going to be trying to nuancely differentiate how and what path you want to take on your way to the top. You can see the centralized market here on the left side. You can see that you're going to be having two columns, each appropriately the green or the blue deck that you're going to be buying. That are going to upgrade the cards that are in your deck in the first place. And this is the dual deck building that they mention here. Thematic, okay, nature, we're seeing a lot of it. Now, this is the weird thing. They say exclusives right here, this Legend of the Falls bonus game, but disclaimer, we got to put a disclaimer on that because it's not available at the retail level. It's not available at the Kickstarter special level. And it's not available at the deluxe expansion VIP special level. It's only available at the all-in up here for $100. And the difference between these is essentially also about one expansion, because you can get two expansions with this, the $69 difference there with the deluxe expansion and the rough terrain expansion, and then the extra expansion here for the extreme weathers. And there's a little promo thing, I think, too. And if you're a VIP something newsletter, you get a little backer reduction cost as well. You can go through your campsites. You can only save one potentially at the beginning of these tokens that you're going to be gathering that are your resources to buy the cards in the first place. But I think actually, if I'm remembering this correctly, you can upgrade your tent in order to be able to store more of those tokens in between rounds, because otherwise any excess that are not used are lost. There you go, campsites. And the other interesting aspect I didn't mention is that campsite, and why that campsite is important, the campsites individually, after you pay the cost to go there, they're going to tell you how many cards from each of your decks you're going to be drawing for the next round in order to do your resource management engine build style of things in the first place. That's the game in a nutshell. The rulebook's out there. I mean, this generalized overview on the page itself, it gives you just a very generic description of the phases, essentially, but you'll want to go to the rulebook to actually get a good sense of it. I mean, it seems fine. Seems fine, seems okay, and it seems light, but it seems expensive for what it is as well. So I wonder if part of that is being a new publisher, because they say the MSRP for like the base game alone is going to be like $70 almost for a card-driven, slight token-ish game. And maybe that's where the price point's going to be, as some of the deluxeified versions of the lower price levels, but that's expensive, because they say even the deluxe version is going to be over $100 MSRP, which is like Gloomhaven costs, folks. So take that for what you will, but surprise of the week, Bear Mountain Camping Adventure. That's why we just start with it. Second surprise of the week, and not in a good way in this sense, though, Call of Duty, the board game. Now, again, I had no expectations, no clue. They held this very close to the vest. I saw it a couple different social media sites and Facebook, YouTube-ish before it launched, but really not a whole lot. I don't know if they just kind of embargoed it, but all of a sudden it kind of everything all at once. The problem is what you see is what you get here. There's more information over here on Bear Mountain than there is on the Call of Duty game page. And for Arcade Wonders, who is a relatively established publisher, especially on crowdfunding, but even more so at retail, WTF. WTF. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Now, you've got a couple previews. You've got a couple gameplay videos of what's going on. Otherwise, that's about it. You can customize your loadout. Oh, okay, gameplay. Secret action planning. You're just throwing keywords at me here. None of this tells me how the game plays. Then we get gameplay. Gameplay, what's in the box? Okay, there's 2 separate retail boxes. Slight nuance in the map, it seems like, but otherwise they're going to be very similar. And you get the stretch goals individually if you go to either core box. But if you want the collector's edition here, that's just going to get you in-game promo skin. So for $1 extra than if you would buy them separately, you're getting an in-game promo skin and premium storage. Again, premium storage, what the heck does that actually mean? You're just getting a bigger box that holds them both together? No. Now, you've got some pre-painted miniatures here. You're getting the 3 operator packs in the Recruits expansion. But look how much that price point jumps up there. $249 from $99. It's a $150 difference for a couple of different operators and an expansion or two. Which, you know, so far, the miniatures, I don't care if they're pre-painted, this looks paltry compared to the recently funded Apex Legends. And that is having to be what it's compared to. And it just doesn't seem as fleshed out in any way, shape, or form that I was expecting. Again, I don't know how any of this works. I don't know how the weapons boards work. I don't know how the operator boards work. I don't know what any of the combat cards do. You tell me in the latest update that there's a kill streak thing that, you know, you get extra bonuses or whatever. But details, none. Hardly any whatsoever on the page itself. So if you don't want to watch a bunch of preview videos, because, I mean, again, that's what, if you go down here, preview, gameplay sponsored. So, you know, and did I mention the stretch goals? They're all $100,000 apart. So are they going to CMON it and retcon this later in the campaign? Because right now, I don't see them hitting this second goal anytime soon because it's 200,000. They just hit the 100,000. And 19 days to go. Are they going to hit any more than maybe one of those? Well, unless you've got a couple of secret expansions, CMON style up your sleeve, or unless you've got more information that's really going to entice people right now, you know, this one might be plateauing already within 48 hours, which is kind of an interesting thing because I can't imagine that the Call of Duty IP to buy it was low. And so what are you actually needing for a true funding goal? Is 75,000 a true funding goal? Or is this not? Is this Euthia all over again in that sense? So again, kind of disappointed by this one. This one kind of lets me down in multiple ways. Oh, did I mention there's no rulebook anywhere as well? Yeah, okay. Enough on that. Fool's Blade and Fool's Money are soon parted. But this is just a really light style card game where basically you just draft off the top, flip over a card and see if you beat it or not. The unique thing is you have all of these, item cards and pieces of weapons that you can use to forge. But essentially, it's going to be a very heavy take that completely random, chaotic driven style of game. Because you have these pieces that I mentioned. You've got your player characters with your asymmetric abilities that you can use at any time or potentially passives. You have quests that you're going to be potentially fulfilling. But you're just drawing one of these cards off the top and then rolling a D whatever accordingly on your side and the other opponent's monster side. But your opponents, your competitors, can actually play cards on your turn to affect the results of these battles in the first place. There's some bonus in terms of interactions of the elements, in terms of what does damage, and you just get loot based on whether or not you win or you lose. That's what the green and the red represent there. That's the basic nutshell of the game. At least there's a rule book, though, and it's only $25. For an extra $15, you get the expansion, and, you know, way too much money gets you a little extra card and some signatures there. So they're hitting some stretch goals. You get a little bit of additional stuff. Yeah, it's based off a webcomic. So that's where a lot of these backers are coming from, I think. And we've seen that be all the rage lately. So I'm not surprised you see more people doing it as a light style, you know, Binding of Isaac, even lighter-ish game. So take that for what it is, but there you go. From the makers of Abduction, the duck-based, you know, little, anyway, alien capturing ducks style of games. Anyway, this is Tiny Laser Heist, where you've got these strings, essentially, these plastic strings that are going across, and you have to manipulate these little tiny hands that you're utilizing like chopsticks separately in each hand, and trying to stack these locks among other things as part of the unlocking-ish, if you will. I mean, they definitely want heavy thematic incorporation even for the stylized picture, right? Wearing the mask. I don't even actually know that's a rule or not, but take that for what it is. But yeah, you've got these things that they had an engineered design that if too much tension is put on them, but they're also not going to be too flexible in terms of just falling off all the time, because I mean there has to be a balancing dynamic between too hard and too easy in that sense, sort of like a, you know, old style Operation-esque game. And you've got cards that you're going to be using to change the style of the heist as you're trying to unlock all of the locks that are present on the middle in order to get the gem. But some of them are going to be beneficial to your team because you don't actually have to recruit everybody that's playing, but you can recruit some of the people. But if you don't recruit some of the other people, then they can play cards that potentially that make your life harder as well, because this is a relatively high amount of take that in addition, even though it doesn't look like it from the get-go. So that's basically the game in a nutshell. You have power-ups, like I mentioned, things that are just going to mitigate things, lockpicks, money that you're getting, something about a song. There's an expansion here that just makes it even more cutthroat, and take that with glitter locks. I mean, I guess, and somehow this adds a, you know, logic puzzle to each heist with how you're having to do the glitter locks comparatively. So yeah, but unfortunately, again, that's about it on the page. No videos of the actual gameplay, no rule book, and so take that for what you will. I mean, it's $50. So question mark, that's a good price. I don't really know. The expansion is going to cost you another $25. I don't know. Do you like this sort of thing? If you do, go for it. But this reminds me similarly of the one I reviewed dexterity-wise earlier this year, Nekojima, only Nekojima was more interesting to me, personally speaking. But if you like this and you want something heavy like this, go for it. Hideous Abomination, 2nd edition. 2nd edition, where you're drawing tiles, trying to create an abomination, closing off all the open loops at the end of the abomination to create a ultimate monster that's going to score points based on the color matching and the set collection style in the first place. $16, and this is a 2nd edition of it, just refinement. So is this your thing? You just roll a die at the beginning. The die tells you one of these 5 different actions, or 6 potentially different actions that you're doing, anywhere from drawing, stealing tiles from other people, revealing a new award that can, you know, change the end game scoring, or just any one of the options in the first place. And you go until, like it says here, you have all of the ends closed off on the monster, and then you count it up and score accordingly. The rulebook's on there, a little bit of information, a little bit of what just everything is going to be there in the first place, and they're going to hit a few of these stretch goals, and yeah, just a light style card tile laying game. Take that for what you will. Cheaper over in not all of Europe, actually. US is cheaper than most of Europe. That's interesting. But what are we talking about here? So £15 for the early bird. Light and easy. Take it easy. Hideous Abomination, 2nd edition. Kaikoro Kingdoms. This is a sequel to their previous Kaikoro roll and write style game, and this is going to be a lighter Euro style game where you're going to be rolling 2 dice at the beginning of every round, and using those dice you're going to be placing the location of the building with 1 die and the type of building with the other die, and these buildings are going to have immediate effects, including gathering resources, special area effects that are going to affect the monsters, or even give you attack or defense that are going to be needed to battle the monsters in the first place. And sorry, not 2 dice. You have your option of 3 to draw 2 buildings. So I was still right. 1 die placement, 2 dice buildings. And you're drawing it in this tower defense style of setting. And then, like I mentioned, applying the effects of each one of them, attacking and defending against the kaiju, and scoring the most points over the 15 rounds that you'll be playing until the end. Rulebook's there, multiplayer mode and solo mode going with this one, and it's a $5 print and play. So if you have any interest in this, again, I don't know how, you know, replayable and how long term this is, but we're seeing the rise of this, and it seems like a solid product. They've got 3 or 4 of these already under their belt. If you want the expansion, it's going to cost you additional $2 as well. So, I mean, go support your indie publishers, folks. That's what we're talking about a lot this week. So, Kaikoro Kingdoms. Look, I wanted to talk about it last week. It wasn't around last week. So, Innovation, the Ultimate Legendary 6.0 edition. I mean, I have mixed feelings about this, right? As someone who just got the previous edition, the deluxe edition, on the secondary market about, 2 months before this campaign, to hear that they're basically kind of redoing a bunch of the errata and a bunch of the gameplay and a bunch of the game flow to make it more accessible at higher player counts, and to just deal with some of the issues that probably should have been dealt with in like the 3rd edition already. It doesn't really make me want to get it, you know, even though you're adding a new expansion and a new whole set of age cards. Everyone says that if you're looking at getting this game in the first place, the base game enough is alone. So why do you need 4 or so expansions to go along with it? That's really what you have to ask yourself. All new box set and its expansions. There's no upgrades. There's no differentiation. If you want this, you just have to get it. It has a little bit of information on the new stuff that you're going to be seeing here. Again, that's okay. You can go through and see what else they're doing. They actually have a couple gameplay videos here from Asmati that they did themselves to show you what the new age is doing, as well as what the new mechanisms, including in these expansions, and just to refine it a little bit as a whole, are going to entail. So I think there's a little bit of graphical redesign as well with this, but not terribly different. Here's the new multiplayer that I was mentioning with Parlay. 4-player free-for-all, but each player next to you is adjacent, and so adjacency and distance are going to matter depending on how your actions are taking, what effects they have when it refers to that. And again, I'll make an argument that the box that I have for this one right now, which is, I don't know, it's actually behind the camera. It was, you know, on the table earlier. The box is crappy, 3 times as big as it needs to be for the amount of cards, even with all of the expansions. So I can't help but look at this one and go, production could be very much the same way, even though I hope it's not. $69, that's less than I paid for my copy, but the real question is, could I even sell my copy for 50 or 60 bucks and go buy this one? You know, if I could, I'd consider it. But, you know, again, shipping is probably going to add, what, another 15 bucks on this as well? 12 bucks? And they didn't put out the last one at retail, so I'm guessing it very much is going to be the same with this one too. So I'm interested, but unless I went and sold the other one, otherwise I'm probably just happy with this, and, you know, I'll pretend like this one never existed, and that's sort of the blessing curse in this situation at the same time if you're looking at it right now. So there you go. Almost forgot about this one. Had to scroll way too far down on the Kickstarter page to actually find it, but this was my pick of the month essentially, and this is Wizards & Co, and I have it saved, as you can see, and we're going to see where it goes from Sinister Fish Games. And $27,000, not incredibly exciting, but it's my style of light take that, card driven, asymmetric chaos brokenness that I kind of like in the first place. You're getting a little loot drop box, which is, you know, exclusive to Kickstarter and direct customers. So yeah, I mean, you can just buy it from their web shop later, but it's going to give you a little bit of extra in terms of what you're doing. So what you're essentially doing in this game is you start out with the same 10 cards that are equivalent to everybody. And as you play them to the different dungeons that are located around this, I believe, octagonal board, you're going to slowly fill up the dungeon locations. Each of these dungeon locations is going to have a special effect or potentially individual effects depending on where things are at. And it's going to make or break the original rules in the first place. And then when they're all filled up, then you battle and you go around and you trigger their abilities. And their abilities may just affect them, but they also may affect ones adjacent or other monsters in the dungeon in the first place. And so essentially the ones remain standing are going to get the victory points and their treasure in the first place. And these random enchantments, like I said, are the dungeon asymmetric challenges each round. And you activate here in clockwise order, and it shows you, okay, well, this imp is actually going to take out some of the other ones before they can actually activate. And then when the dust settles, anyone who has the most creature strength left in all the dungeons gets the artifacts, and then second gets second, and so on and so forth. And you're going to be gradually getting more cards as you go along because you're drawing cards, but that's based on the number of cards you play in the first place. Play more cards, draw less cards in order to balance out a runaway leader mechanic in the first place. So this is probably the one that I'm looking at the most backing this month. I haven't backed a ton this month, and Sinister Fish puts out a relatively good product. As you can see here, Moon, Streets, and Villages are their other ones, and I believe at least 2 of those 3 are very well received, although I think Moon is in the process of delivering right now or just recently. So Streets and Villagers, though, those were the ones that put them on the map in the first place. Solid little light filler, May 2024, so you're looking at about 8 months to get it, hopefully. And yeah, you like it? Go for it. There you go. So here, you're getting a Spike Feeder cereal. Is it a game? Is it a cash grab from a known cartoon in the first place or something else online? Is there any information on the game itself on the page? No. But somehow, 11, almost $10,200 at this point. So take that for what you will. Lucky Cat, next one up, $4,000 over the $3,000 pledge goal. I thought this just looked kind of cute. You have 6 different dice that you're going to be rolling potentially on a turn. But you start out with 3 dice that are unlocked that you're going to be passing around and rolling and taking actions based off of them. And as you slowly unlock more dice, you're going to have more actions available to you, including gathering resources, as well as, economic proportions in order to build your engine. And there's a little plushie that you're going to be passing around. Unfortunately, you have to scroll way down to actually get to the information of the game in the first place. But you have these different symbols that you're going to be gathering, and you need to either get 10 gold or 2 cat tiles in order to win the game in the first place. You're going to have coins that you're going to be using to get resources and to buy cat tiles and hide money, and you're going to have resources that are going to be available to you, as well as the die symbols that are going to allow you to not only bend the rules in terms of hiding money and receiving money, but also cubes and tiles in the first place. You can help or hinder the other players depending on how you want to utilize those dice to your advantage. They run you through here the phases: roll, re-roll, take the die actions. Again, the die actions themselves, the simple dice and the economic dice actions that you can utilize, as well as how you're going to be slowly rebuilding this kingdom as you go along. I don't know, just looks kind of cute. Is the gameplay there? I have no idea. Check out this. You want to see a little bit of video on here, a little bit of rulebook, as well as a little bit of overview. Yeah, give it a look-see. It's funded. We'll see where it goes. Next up, Iron Rail number 4, the Age of Rail plus Metal Trains, economic train style game going across. You can see the other ones previously that they've put out there. Again, way out of my depth, way out of my comfort zone, but it's raising $62,000, and it's going to cost you a pretty penny for some metal trains on top of the base game alone here. Although it's only $40, which is actually much less than I would have expected, considering the trains are $69. If you want more information, go watch one of the videos. That's all I'm going to say about it, because it's not my ilk, but I like talking about it either way. So there you go. Next up is going to be Flight Plan. Well, kind of what I thought Globetrotting was going to be, the one from the makers of Canvas. I just got a copy of that as well, and so I'll have a review out here in the, sometime short future. I'm way behind in reviews. But essentially what you're doing is you're starting your own airline, you're buying your own fleet, you're buying your own routes, and you're taking actions on a turn-by-turn basis in order to fly these routes, collect the income, and become the first one to do several or one of the win conditions. The issue I kind of have with this one is, if you look at this Kickstarter exclusive edition here at $65, it offers some gameplay content with additional routes, as well as additional route cards and alternate instructions, as well as daily briefings. Because essentially what you do on your turn is, or in the round, is you get money as your income, and then basically a random event happens, sort of Dead of Winter style, and then you go out and you do your actions, and that's what's going to be the key aspect of things. As you go down here, you can see all of the different actions that you can make: buy, fly and buy, fly and fly, buy to fly, hub it, negotiate, or do nothing. And so you need to potentially, to end the game, have a route that is connected with all 6 of the continents, or you can establish hubs in 2 of the 3. Hubs are slightly bigger areas that you can control, or own all of the short haul routes in one of these areas. So you're going to have to pay attention to what other people are doing in terms of routes in the first place as well. So gives you a little bit of an overview otherwise here, and everything that I just mentioned in the first place. The early bird edition is $39, the regular is $49, and like I said, the extra limited content, that's a lot for limited content, is $65. So that's almost an 80% increase in price. That's a lot for that. So we'll see where it goes, but I have no idea. A few stretch goals are being hit there in terms of extra content. So, it seems great, but I'm not sure there's anything enticing me enough to get it necessarily on crowdfunding right now. But it's doing really, really well. $35,000 at the time. So pick that for what you will. Next up is Quibbles here. Just a quaint, as they say, light style card game. Essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be drafting these cards. There's 1 through 6s in there, and you're going to be taking them into your hand by playing other cards from your hand in the first place to acquire them, depending on what you discard, depending on how many you can get back into your hand. So if you play a certain discarded way, then you might get just all of one kind in your hand, like all the ones. But if you play a different discarded card in a way, then you can get maybe 2 sets of those, or 2 sets of pairs, so the 2 1s and 2 3s. So it's essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to lay sets down from your hand in order to get the most set collection points, because the set collection points have to be at least 3 of a kind in a set, and then you take whatever the number is of that set, like 3 1s, 3 2s, 3 3s would be a 1, a 2, and a 3, and so you have to get those points totaled up to be 21. So in that case, I would only have 6, 1 plus 2 plus 3, like I mentioned. And so you're trying to get a total of those sets on the individual number as the whole representative of 21, and then you just rinse and repeat until somebody is able to get it as a quick set collection style game. So that's in a nutshell. What are we talking at price point here as a card game? $15 as a single copy you pick up in Essen. Delivered. Ooh, is that shipped already? If that includes shipping, yeah. $16 light style card game. There you go. Quibbles. Then we have Alphabet Stoop, which is almost funded at the time of me filming this, $8 out of $10,000 of their goal. And this is a scrambling sort of Scrabble style word game play. And what you're doing is you're essentially moving your little worker, your carrier, from one card to the adjacent card. And you can see the setup here, depending on the number of players, of how you're going to be able to move to adjacent cards as you go along. And these cards are going to have letters on them. And moving them there, you're going to be dropping off these quote-unquote packages, but it must form a word using the magazines and the newspapers that are already there in the first place. If you do that, then you get to put your little stamp in the corner, marking that as the one that you get a victory point for at the end of the game. And as you go across this, the one who gets the most completed essentially is going to end up with the most victory points. When somebody has dropped off all of their packages or earned 9 victory points, the game is over. That's it. So $35, $25, depending if you want one or two of them. 2 copies for $35, 1 for $25. Interesting. Pack of postcards, again, unique designs, I guess. That's great. Here you go, price point wise, $18 for the game with the holographs if you want that sort of thing. Very light, word style friendly game. Maybe gonna fund here shortly. So yeah, everything you need to know in short and sweet nutshell. Few more here. Tasty card game, Cooking Noodles. Again, a very, very light style card game. A little bit of set collection, a little bit of pattern matching. Essentially what you're doing is you're starting with a certain number of cards in your hand, depending on if you're the first player, the middle players, or the last player. 3 for the first player, 5 for the last player, 4 for everyone else in between. And what you're essentially doing is you're playing these cards down to your tableau. Your tableau, though, has to be built from the left or the right side, and depending on what colors are next to each other depends on how they score. You're going to have fridge cards as well as noodles, seasoning, ingredient cards, which are all going to be, as you can see, color-coded to match the scoring. And as you can see here, as I just mentioned, green, point each. Blue, only the one that scores is the first one. But you place red cards next to blue cards, then they score. Draw 2 cards, play an action, play a fridge, donate more cards to the fridge for the benefit, or you just end the game by getting 7 points. $10, $12, $28 if you want 3 copies. Few stretch goals, boom. That's all you need to know. So I had to search for this one because, again, you go over to GameFound, everything but the active small projects. You see big projects, you see upcoming projects, you see anything by a name that you'd recognize, but you don't see these small ones that are going because this one's funded. Again, funded. I had a copy. I talked about it, at the beginning of the week when my upcoming games to be aware of. And this is Aethermon. It's a very, very simple set collection style of game with a little bit of potential take that depending on how aggressive you want to be, because essentially what you do is you set all of these Aethermon cards, very reminiscent of Pokemon, out in a big grid face up. And what you do is you essentially choose one, and then you can the next person can choose one from the same row or the same column. And then you just set collect the ones that you want, but you're potentially choosing the one that you want while also trying to make sure that the other person or the people that you're going against cannot get the ones that they want, because obviously in a set collection style game, the more you have the same set, the better the points are going to be at the end. But there's only about 3 per set, sometimes even only 2, so the sets are more difficult to make than you would think, which is both a blessing and a curse in this style of game. Now they also give you some artifacts here to go along with it that'll give you like asymmetric powers that you can slowly collect along the way. Neoprene mat, pins, great, and they're no solid retail plans. It's a very small box. It comes in a very nice package, but it's also, well, not really anything that I felt like I really wanted to play again. It was fine, but it wasn't something that made me stand out and say, wow, this is really okay. And, I talk about a lot of these small box card games on this channel in the first place, so this is definitely up my appeal. And there's a cooperative mode, and you don't play with the artifacts that I mentioned, and you have to go and try and get as many Aethermon as you can without losing, essentially, without being unable to play. So there you go. 2 more this week. We got Crocodile Islands. Gavin Birnbaum, one of my favorite indie designers. I only have one of his games, but they're all wooden handmade games over from England. Is sneaking in another one on Kickstarter crowdfunding. This is a 5-year anniversary of a previous game they put out called Crocodile Islands. Basically what you have is you have these little crocodile tiles with magnets on the side, and you have to be able to place them out on these little archipelago, that's a tough word actually, to say on camera, size islands. And if you cause your crocodile to clank or attach to somebody else's crocodile, or any 2 crocodiles to attach, then you lose. Then you get to move one of your crocodiles around here around the edge, and as you move them around the edge, you're slowly getting closer to this olive python or something, this thing that eats crocodiles, right? And if your crocodile gets eaten, then the game stops, and whoever has the crocodile farthest away, because you have 2 of them, farthest away from, I think, no, you just have 1. You have 2 blocks, but you have 1 crocodile around the outside. your Crocodile around the outside, then whoever is farthest away wins. That's it. Dexterity-based, steady, magnet-esque game. Yeah, it's going to cost you $75 plus shipping. They do economical shipping, and you can get a few add-ons here to go along with it, but that's the gist of it. I love the bottom, though. He always includes something snarky, and I just love reading it every single time. If you go all the way down to the bottom, something else. When he buys cheese puffs, purchase the extra large bag to save on packaging, removing the cucumber wraps at the supermarket and putting it in their recycling bin, and then they're reducing your carbon footprint by eating a plant-based diet and having less emissions himself. I love it. Sustainable distribution. Using the electric scooter to transport the games to the drop-off points and to the shipping. So there you go. I love highlighting these games, and I'm glad I looked for it because sometimes it's very easy to miss them. I mean, he'll raise a couple $1,000s, and he'll end up with somewhere between, 30 and 70 backers. And if you're really interested, puts out some awesome games. In the past, he's allowed some of the other ones to be pledge managered a little bit or added on. It doesn't look like this is going to be one of those, though. So looks like just this one this time around. So there you go. Crocodile Islands. I bet you never knew that it was out there. And it also has a Board Game Geek entry. Boom, shakalaka. Now, Shadowrun Takedown. Catalyst Games. $36,000, just launched. Come on. This is Call of Duty all over again at the beginning of the video. There's no information on the page about how to play this game. What it is basically, though, is it's a IP Shadowrun-based almost RPG game where you've got this mastermind that's going to be slowly guiding the rest of the players on this 3D sort of tile laying experience. The problem is there's not an actual description of how you're going to be playing. Yes, you have runners. Yes, you have rolls. You're going to be rolling dice. You have real time, 1.5 minutes per person per turn that you're going to be utilizing and upgrading and trying to make the objective on the mission complete. But if you really want to look at this, the only way of knowing is actually watching this playthrough video, which is 57 minutes. And here you can see kind of what I'm detailing and entailing just by showing you. You've got the player cards up here. You've got the 3D scenario that you're running through, and there's a timer as well that you can see. But if we go back to the page here, nothing else. Mission gameplay, it just says you're cooperating. You have to go through. Doesn't tell you anything specific. It just says generic stuff about the player phases, the enemy phases, and the refresh phases on how it's going to actually flow. It's a battle against time. The mastermind is the one guiding them, but can only say certain things as you go along. But they're not actually participating actively in the mission themselves. That's it. And so I really don't like the fact that there is so little information. And I'm shocked that people are pledging to this amount, $36,000 already, because there's so little information, but it's the Shadowrun IP, I think, in the first place. And don't get me wrong, this is not just me harping on this, right? It's Catalyst knows how to put out a good campaign. Look at this. Look at this right here. They just did Battletech Mercenaries. How much money did Battletech Mercenaries make? $7.5 million. Look, you know how to put stuff on a page. You're just choosing not to at this point. And this one didn't end long ago, which makes me also go, why is this one running so closely to the other one? Is it just because they're trying to hype off of the GenCon right here? But again, why so limited information? Why nothing on the page? That irritates me. And personally speaking, like, yeah, you can check out the playthrough video, the one playthrough video, but I would be hard-backed to press this one right now, just knowing how little is out and how I'm just not sure sustainability-wise this one is going to be long-term for you in your collection. So, I mean, what's the price point even? I didn't even look. Whoa, $70 and $140 for stretch goals and Kevlar styled case. So you want to pay $70 for an extra case, Kevlar style? There you go. Check it out. Shadowrun. Boom, there you go. La Roundup is complete. A little sassy in there, but that's okay. Again, whoops, spoilers. You're not supposed to see what's in front of me. It's a secret. I almost had it on camera. If you were on my Patreon, though, you'd know what I just pushed out of the way of the camera because I just filmed it right before this. And they got to see. So, enticement. Support me with that style of things. If not, that's okay too. I gotta do something at the end here, right? How was vacation? Vacation was okay. My birthday, nobody really remembered my birthday. My wife did, thankfully. She's like, I will play a game with you. That was essentially the birthday style things. But I got a lot of stuff played, mostly two-handed or solo. Played some Ark Nova, played some Earth, played some Clank Catacombs, played Race for the Raft, played Spirit Island Jagged Earth, played some Wiz War, played Volumino. I got a lot of stuff played. I didn't get a few things played that I wanted to, and as the Patreon folks found out last night, I'm just behind on reviews. So expect to see about 3 or 4 reviews in the next week or so. A few things that you've heard of, a few things that you haven't heard of. And to be honest, some frank mixed opinions on them as well. So you'd know some of my thoughts already on them if you were Patreon. I'm sorry last time. But that's all I got otherwise. Top 3 coming up next week, tomorrow. And then probably Sunday and Monday are both going to be reviews. So that's what I got going on. Otherwise, I'm solo parenting this weekend. It's going to be a dicey time. No, it's going to be fine. I mean, at this point, you know, solo parenting isn't a big deal. You just get used to it. The only difficult time is sometimes like nighttime. Like managing all the stuff with the meal and then the bedtime with all 3, and especially the one that doesn't want to stay in his room now because we transitioned the 2-year-old, who's turning 3 later this month, out of his crib because the older one, actually my wife wanted to get him a bed, but then the 9-year-old took the bed that we were actually going to get for the 2-year-old, which is actually fine because it's like super raised up on like a bunch of shelving units, like whole wooden base and stuff. So then the 2-year-old now is on the bunk beds that the 9-year-old was previously only using one of. And so he's got like this queen size bunk bed next to each other, but he won't stay in bed. So every time he wakes up in the middle of the night, whether it's 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 4 o'clock, not like that happens every single night, he comes upstairs and ends up in our bed. Some nights I can divert him back down to his bed. Other nights it doesn't happen. Or it's like last night where it's 3 or 4 a.m. and both of us are asleep and I just feel him crawling in and can't do anything about it at that point. So that's what we got going on. I got nothing else going on except I need to get some stuff played and do some more reviews, because apart from the stuff that I have reviewed video-wise already and am in the process of editing, I have about 3 or 4 other ones that I need to actually put to video as well. GenCon here, pub at the end. If anyone wants to mule for me at GenCon, pick me up some Lorcana or something else. I don't know, Forbidden Jungle. That's about the only one that's other interesting to me. I'm sure there's other things, but I'm like, whatever. I'll get them later eventually, or I don't know. There's not really that much exclusive anymore at conventions, except if you really want like promos or pins. So you can just wait for the most part. That's all I got. Stay classy. See you around. You made it to this part of the video. Subscribe. Almost to 8,100. Let's go. Can we get 10K by the end of the year? I don't think so, but maybe 9. Peace out.